Hold on, brother, I'm talking.
Just a little disclaimer for the start of this video. I'm not saying anything negative about Tony. I'm just keeping it real. I'm the biggest Tony fan, biggest there is. At the start of all my videos in the intro, you actually hear a voice saying, "Hold on, brother, I'm talking." And obviously, if you're a real MMA fan, you know what that is. It's Tony being interviewed next to Feguson at the UFC when they went to Australia a few years back, and Feguson threw a boomerang at Colby, and Colby rang the police. What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Got some news. Darren Till is fighting Luke Rockhold in the main event of Misfits 22, and an even more interesting fight that I'm more interested in is T-Ferg, top T himself, Tony Ferguson, fighting Salt Papi. If you don't know who Salt Papi is, he's this Asian kid, sort of chubby, but he's shows you can never find some photos of him where he's kind of in shape, but he's like this chubby, unassuming looking Asian kid with glasses. Looks like he'd be really good at maths, but and you would never think he'd be able to fight his way out of a wet paper bag. But as soon as I saw this kid, and I haven't watched a bunch of Misfits, I watched a couple when they first came on, because it was just so funny seeing like the mismatches where someone who can fight a little bit against someone who would just turn their back and has no idea how to fight, kind of like Rough and Rowdy. It was just hilariously fun to watch. Haven't watched them for ages, but I remember seeing Salt Papi fight, and I was absolutely shocked, not just because the way he looked, because of how good he was. He was fluid, he set a punch as well, landed punch as well, seemed to have a lot of pop in his punches. He looked like he'd had definitely a lot of boxing experience. Maybe boxed for 2-3 years as an amateur when he was young, something along those lines. And one other guy as well, Slim Albert, another Asian, a more South Asian, whereas Papi's more of a East Asian. But Slim also was just like, he was just really good. The way he'd move around the ring, the way he'd hit people, you know, he seemed to have a really decent skill level, especially compared to the Misfits guys. So if we have a look here at his record, this is YouTube thing. He fought a guy called Halal Ham, who was just hilarious. He won by decision. Andy Warski won by KO. Joe Bruckner won by KO, and he was wiping these guys out. And you've got to remember, these are like 4-round fights. Look at these 4-round fights. So anyone who knows anything about boxing, is so hard to knock someone out in 4 rounds. It's near impossible. That's why amateur fighters, if they got a good few knockouts on their record, you know they can really crack, like a Jalalov type guy, because you've only got 3 minutes or whatever, you know, to win the fight. So you're just trying to land and not get hit. You're not really trying to knock guys out, especially back then with the headgear. There's no headgear no more in amateur boxing. Then Shocker lost to Anthony Taylor, which I don't know how he lost to Anthony Taylor. He's definitely a better fighter, boxer than Anthony Taylor. But I guess Anthony Taylor had the pro fight experience over him. And then it says TKO here. It was more of a KO in my opinion. He got his ass whooped by Slim. The only other really good... Well, there's another guy as well who's on his record, King Kenny. He's a decent-ish fighter for Misfits. But Slim and Papi really stood out as really good Misfits fighters. Retired a guy, KO'd the Savage guy, the Wood Savage, and then he TKO'd King Kenny, and King Kenny I think had a belt as well. As you can see, it was 3 or 6 rounds. I'm pretty sure that was for some sort of Misfits belt, but I can't remember. King Kenny was like a slight tier below Slim and Papi, but he was still a decent fighter. But you'll see if you go and watch his highlights, Salt Papi's, he can really fight for a Misfits guy, 100%. So here it is. He's fighting Tony Ferguson. But before we talk about that, Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold. In MMA, I think it would be even Stevens-ish on the feet, but Luke's length, range, and his kicks. I mean, Luke Rockhold's kicks are just savage. So I think Luke would do all right on the feet, eventually get the takedown, and you know when he gets Till down, he's going to submit him or ground and pound him. So I think Rockhold would win that fight. I think if they fought now in MMA, Rockhold would probably win that fight. Maybe not. I'm not super confident, but I'd say 60-40 Rockhold's favour. Or, sorry, 55-45 Rockhold's favour, because you can't be too confident with either of those guys. But in boxing, it's going to be interesting because Darren Till's fresher, and it's just the hands, whereas Till was much more of a hands-only guy, whereas Rockhold really relied on his kicks. So Rockhold's going to be at a big disadvantage here with the big gloves and the fisticuffs only. So it's going to be interesting to see. I will be looking forward to watching that. It will be a laugh. It'll be a car crash. It will be a car crash, and I will be witnessing it. But back to Salt Papi and Tony. Man, I love Tony Ferguson to death. Let's remember, other than Chandler, he hasn't, in the Gaethje fight, it was stopped on the feet. So other than the Chandler freak thing, he hasn't been knocked out. Yeah, he wasn't hitting the biggest hitters. Since Gaethje, he hasn't fought a big hitter. And remember, he dropped Gaethje and ended that fight on the feet. even though that fight ended his career, basically. Even though he fought on for 5, that basically was the end of him. Do you know what I mean? As we know. But he's still the only thing that dropped him was that kick that would have taken an elephant out of Michael Chandler. But this fight is, I don't know why he's jumping in with Salt Papi. I think this is a bad matchup for him. I think Misfits know that. I don't think they're planning on getting Tony back again. I think they're thinking this will be one and done. Let's use a bit of his name, even though his name is pretty used up at this point, unfortunately. And they're throwing him to Salt Papi, which is, I guess they got to give him a big name because they're probably paying him well. Hopefully he's earning 500-600 grand, maybe more. I hope more, because he's, a lot of people are going to tune in and watch this for Tony. A lot of UFC fans who love Tony. Probably 500,000 people. A lot of them are probably going to stream it, but they'll probably get 50 to 100,000 people who will probably pay to watch this, if it is pay to watch. So I think Misfits pay-per-views are probably like 10 or something, just to see Tony fight and hope to God he wins, which we all will be praying for Tony. But I don't like this matchup. I do see Tony getting dropped once or twice. I don't think he'll finish him because Tony is just teak tough. But I see him getting dropped once or twice, frustrated, embarrassed, and just outboxed, because we've seen this so many times with guys who are even decent fight punchers, decent boxers in the UFC. They come over to boxing, and someone who's been boxing for a short amount of time, like Nate Diaz, his style was boxing, just straight boxing more or less. Forget the jiu-jitsu. He was just a straight boxer until he got the guy into the position where he'd use his jiu-jitsu. Like he used to say, he would hit him in the feet, the whole fight would be on the feet, and then when he got him damaged, dropped him, then he'd use the jiu-jitsu. So, and even a guy like Nate, who's been doing the damn thing for nearly 20 years, professionally, just straight boxing more or less, now me. Jake Paul was dropping him all over the place. I know Jake's a lot bigger, but Jake's only been boxing 4 or 5 years, and he had no fight experience before that. So it goes to show, when you're boxing, it really is a different game. Sorry, I got some indigestion. But so I don't see this going well for Tony. Tony's never boxed before, especially with the big gloves. We know he's going to come. We know he's going to try, but I think it's going to be a frustrating night. And I hope Tony wins this, but I don't think it's going to go well for him. And I hate to say that, but I just got to be real. I got to call it as it is. Got to keep it 100. And let me know what you guys think. Give me a like, give me a comment, give me a subscribe, and let me know what you think Tony's going to get up to in this fight. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.